we're also following Diageo closely after the world's largest distiller actually matched estimates. Net income came in at almost £2 billion in the year to June. The company behind the Johnnie Walker brand enjoyed higher sales of Scotch whisky in emerging markets. Now that offset sliding profitability in Europe. Let's now get more on this from the man who's been at Diageo's helm for 11 years now. The CEO, Paul Walsh, joins us. Thank you, Mr. Walsh, for joining us on today's show. In terms of what we're seeing, there's a lot of concern, of course, about a risk of a double-dip recession in the US and Europe. Does it mean that your strategy will be much more focused on the emerging markets like it has been so far, because that's where you're going to see most of your growth?
Very much so. We've been investing in the new wealth-creating markets of the world for the last 7 or 8 years, and you're starting to see real momentum build. These consumers are very much minded to adopt Scotch as a core part of their repertoire, and you can see in these numbers that the Scotch performance was outstanding. Having said that, we do benefit from a very broad geographical base.
Yes, which I wanted to get onto in just a couple of minutes, Mr. Walsh, but if we just focus on the emerging markets for now, is there not a problem that if we are going to see a double-dip recession, they will also be hit, and therefore consumer spending in there for your whiskies, be it expensive whiskies or not, will also drop?
I suspect that we will see a degree of immunity in the developing world, as indeed we did back in 2008 and 2009. In fact, the most robust performer during that period was Africa. And when you look at our performance during 2008 to 2010, we continued to grow. So there is a degree of resilience in this business. I don't know what the global economy is going to do. What I do know is that we have the brands and the people to navigate through it.
All right, look at Diageo's shares after profit came in line with estimates, and I'm pleased to say that CEO Paul Walsh is still with us. Now, we were talking a little bit before about, the emerging markets and your momentum in there. Talk to me about the US. There is, again, so much concern that this is slowing down, but you've told me that because you're pricing, or you're selling the good stuff, basically the more expensive stuff that won't get as much hurt if there is a recession in the United States as cheaper brands.
Well, I certainly agree. We sell the very good stuff. In the US particularly, we're seeing good volumetric momentum, and we're getting price and mix improvement. And what we see is in the second half of the year we've just reported upon, the momentum built. So the second half was stronger than the first half. So we are seeing growth. And also we're seeing growth in our high-end marks, Johnnie Walker Blue, Tanqueray 10, etc. These are very strong equities.
What about Europe? Europe is in a different crisis, because here we may be talking about a breakup of the Eurozone. Will that hurt sales as consumers are a little bit more wary about spending?
We are seeing a very polarised Europe. Clearly in southern Europe, where consumer confidence is very weak, in Greece, in Spain, and I guess also in Ireland, we have seen a contraction in our business. However, we have maintained our margin. But there are growth opportunities in Europe. Germany is doing very well. The UK is fine. Our business in Russia is strong. Benelux is doing just fine. So what we have to do is accept the cards that we are dealt with in southern Europe, but exploit growth wherever we can.
What about acquisitions? Is this something that's on the table? And would you, for example, be interested in acquiring Foster's? It's up for grabs.
I would never want to comment specifically on companies that are out there and maybe in play. What I would say is that in the year we just reported, we actually spent £1.6 billion on acquisitions, and in fact only yesterday we closed on the Turkish acquisition.
But what about the next 12 months? Do you have money to spend on acquisitions? We
have a very strong balance sheet. We generated £1.7 billion of cash. And therefore we are in a very good position to take opportunities. However, they have to be the right opportunities, and we will only make acquisitions where they are accretive to our top line and they create value for our shareholders.
And is there any specific market that you would like to make an acquisition at the moment? Again, is it at the top end? Is it to actually get into a market where you're not in already, for example, a specific country?
We are very broadly based. We operate in 180 countries around the world, so there is not one specific market that I would allude to. What I would say is that we are clearly wanting to acquire brands which have growth potential, as we have done this past year.
All right, Paul Walsh, thank you so much for joining us, Chief Executive there of Diageo.